Attention passengers. This is your co-pilot speaking. Your pilot is black mind, so you are not going blind and there is no power failure. You are merely experiencing the immense blackness of his proximity, and when you hear his voice, you and the cabin will get even darker than you are currently. We will be cruising at the speed equal to light, because the one other thing that travels equally fast is darkness. Your loved ones awaiting your arrival may not recognize you at first sight. This is normal. Simply tell them about the pilot, and they will understand. We will taxi to the runway now, so please buckle up and prepare for a high-speed departure. Thank you for choosing Jet Black Airways, where the phrase jet black is also a verb. We hope you keep jetting black with us until the wings and the wheels fall off. Justice forever.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. Here's the deal. This is a story time that's on me. Nobody sent this in because this is something that was something from my own life. Now, regarding this story, this is a story that happened here in Saudi, but it is an illustration of what goes on in another nation, actually, that's in between where I am and where you are sitting and listening. Number one, a friend of mine, my closest friend from northern Nigeria that actually also lives the closest to me, has 3 daughters and a son. And he's actually getting ready to marry a second wife who's a little bit older than his oldest daughter. Would I do it? No. But it's up to him. He's the one that's going to pay that dowry, not me. If he's going to pay the cost to be the boss, he's the boss. Her dad is okay with it. Look, the 2 oldest daughters he has are a medical school student and a student about to graduate high school and then start medical school, because here you can actually, and in Nigeria, you can go into medical school or medical college straight from high school. They're mixed together, you could say. So to make a long story short, they were about to go start medical college in Georgia, the 2 of them. One, the oldest daughter, having already completed some of her medical studies in Nigeria, was about to go into Georgia because the professors in Nigeria went on strike. And when I say Georgia, I mean the nation of Georgia, not the state next to Florida, but the nation just north of Turkey. Well, when the strike was over, which was recently, he changed his mind and said to both of them, you will be going in Nigeria because the strike is over, the school resumed. And to the oldest daughter, already having completed some of the studies, he said to her, you will not have to transfer any credits and lose some. You'll pick up right where you left off. You won't have to repeat anything. He said that they did not approve. And his wife, who was also a doctor, initially didn't want the girls to go to medical school in Georgia because it's far away from here and Nigeria. Now he's saying they're going to Nigeria, and the wife wanted to just make the daughters happy, but which means letting them go in Georgia. But he was like, look, in Nigeria, number one, their grandparents with whom they'll be staying live down the street from the college. They have a car. If the car breaks down, they still can walk to the college, walk to all of their classes. And they'd be with their grandparents. Not his parents, but his wife's parents. He and I walk almost every day that he doesn't have late clinics, and we get our exercise in and we talk and chat. And he knows that there's a gender war between black men and black women in the United States and in the West in general. He doesn't know about the black manosphere. I never used that term. He doesn't know about the white manosphere. I didn't tell him the word manosphere at all. He knows I have a YouTube channel. He doesn't know its name. He actually is saying to me, you should try to monetize it, use it to make money. I'm not against it. I just leave it up to you. And I told him, look, man, I'm going to leave it up to the viewers because where we live here in Saudi, the postal service doesn't work like that. So YouTube can mail me the pin for the AdSense and it'll never get to me. I get no text messages either saying there's a package for you. No, nothing like that. So I don't get it. I can't monetize it. Plus, they're not going to pay when because of where I am. Cynthia G can get that money, but I can't. So I'll leave it to you. Would I like to do this full time? Make money off of it? I would, but you can only do so much. I mean, you listening can only do so much. But we chatted about this. So he does know something, but not about a black manosphere. He doesn't know about Kevin Samuels. He was talking about how they wanted to debate and discuss why they should go to Georgia for medical school, even though his oldest daughter would lose some credits for courses she already took, even though his second oldest daughter would be starting and she wouldn't be losing courses for or credit for courses she's already taken. She'll be starting from scratch, but they would both be far away from anyone they know in a nation that previously had a conflict with another bigger nation already in another war. Do you think that if Russia completely wins unilaterally in the Ukraine, that they're not going to restart the conflict with Georgia over Ossetia? I would. That's not all. In the event that Georgia goes through this, and maybe it's not likely, but we from the outside this far away can only guess. And he said to them, in Nigeria, you both would be with your grandparents with a car down the street from the university within walking distance if the car breaks, if you lose the car, worst case scenario. If the city becomes as dangerous as the countryside is, you would know in advance and you'd have a chance with your grandparents to all evacuate and fly to a bigger city in which we have property. You have all of this. And you're telling me that even though there's no longer a strike and that the university is about to resume, that you would rather take a greater risk in a cold land with no allies, no relatives, no friends, and risk a situation that at worst could get like the ones that the Nigerians in the Ukraine face. You would rather deal with that than to be with your grandparents down the street from the college. No, we're not doing that. I'm not going to put you in harm's way because you like the idea of going to Europe. Did you ever stop to think about why it's cheaper to study in Eastern Europe than it is in Western Europe? Because Eastern Europe is Europe's ghetto. It's their hood. That's why it's cheaper to study there. The prestige you associate with a European university does not apply in Eastern Europe. This man made it clear. I'm dad. I'm footing the bill for this. I'm paying the cost to be the boss. I'm going to be the boss, and I'm going to make the decision that is safer for you and easier for you, even if you don't see it. And my dumb American behind asked the question, what stops them from seeing it? And he said, they're women. They can think logically, but they're always going to prioritize emotion over logic if they don't know that it's an emergency. And maybe even if they do. And he told me in response, listen, Black, in Islam, women are forbidden from national leadership specifically because of this point. Can they be logical? We've seen them do it. My wife is a doctor and she's a very good one. But will they be? For whatever reason, when it comes to things that are very important, we always have to step in with the logic, then the emotions later. They want to go with the emotions first, second, third, fourth, then the logic. And I said to him, you know, man, it sounds like you've been listening to some guys in the States in recent years. And he told me, oh, no. In the north of Nigeria, we know what feminism is. But before we let what happened in the South happen to us, we go against it. Now, mind you, they don't know about a manosphere, or he doesn't. None of my other friends from northern Nigeria know about this. They don't know about O'Shea Duke Jackson or Kevin Samuels. They don't know about BGS Ibmore. Shout out to him. Or Edward Anderson. They don't know about these cats for the most part. They do know that feminism is a damn problem and that they have pretty much said to their ladies right off the bat, you start with that mess, you better go ahead and go move down to Lagos and you can't come back here. They are preemptively combating feminism. Do you think that we can't learn from them? Also, some misconceptions that we have can easily be dispelled if you merely sit down with my friends and break bread with them and chop it up with them. And since you don't know who I am, let alone who they are, and you don't live with us, that's fine. There are northern Nigerians where you live, and if you approach them nicely, they're not going to repel you and call you an Akata bastard and push you away. They are not Southerners. And even then, all Southerners ain't Igbos. And all Igbos are not anti-Black American. You got a better chance with a good reception than you do anything else. And you will be able to learn a lot. You will be able to compare notes and you will be glad you did it. You want to talk about Pan-Africanism, some of you, that's how you put it into practice. The same way that you insist on judging whites individually, even I do, to the point that you forget to counterbalance that with the truth, which is that collectively speaking, white society is not our moral equal, is the way that you should approach people from the continent and from the islands, non-ADOS, as individuals. And you can say, well, you know, your society is complex. Why? Because their societies are actually individuals. Collectively, their societies are individuals. How do you know? They're not even united. Jamaica's not united. You got two political parties been at each other's throats for years. Black folks. That's because they're a nation of individuals. Western Europe is not. Christian Eastern Europe is not. Collectively speaking. Are they composed of them? Yes. Do they function as individuals at a collective level? No, they don't. They're going to be on code. You got a better shot learning and trading notes with some non-ADOS black folk once you approach them like long lost relatives with whom you're willing to get along. You ain't got to kiss their behinds. They ain't got to kiss yours. Then you learn a whole lot. And what I've learned is that if you want to see how feminism can be prevented, you can spend some time in northern Nigeria if you can afford it. And then if you want to live somewhere else, which is fine, especially if you're not Muslim, you may choose to live somewhere else. Okay, fine. Guess what? You will know how to tell these other men to prevent it, which is better for your own sons and daughters anyway. This is if you're passport bros, SYSBM, IBMOR, passport gang, not passport pookie. And by the way, to some of these ladies talking about passport boys, how about y'all eat this middle finger? I'd say it more rudely, but I'm not trying to get this censored. Now, I do have I got a few designs too for some merchandise, and we'll get to that later. But that's just a tangential point. Once I've mentioned that Passport Boys is not a proper name for any of them. But the designs I've got are for the whole union. UBMPT, Union of Black Male Passport Travelers. So, working on some more vendors and things like that. We'll get to it eventually, inshallah. But right now, I need you all to understand this. I need you all to understand and to realize what we're facing here. We're facing a dearth of information ourselves. A lot of things we just simply don't know because sometimes we're too busy trying to romanticize our cousins of other nationalities, and other times we're too busy trying to paint them or color them bad, color them enemies when they're not. Truth is usually nuanced, and as I've stated, nuance is kryptonite to the Negro. We know there is such a thing as balance. When we think about it, we're actually pretty good at it, but we don't like to think. And that's the real reason that nuance is kryptonite to us. It's not because we can't handle nuance, it's because we can't handle thinking. Actually, we can, we just don't. And in that regard, we are very much like the Bedouins amongst whom I'm standing at this point. And if you hear frustration coming from me, it is partially due to the fact that I'm in this environment. Looking for another job in this environment, no doubt, no less. I got every low ball salary offer calling me up without me even applying to them. Brother, can you start Sunday? And then giving me some low ball salary with bad hours. And then everybody, all these good jobs that actually need to fill positions, I'm sitting up telling them, hey, listen, we need to talk. I got something for you. And they'll do it, but they take a long time. And then my current employer starts sending me emails. When you going to transfer your comment to another employer? Ninja, I'm working on it. How about you tell them to hurry to uck up? Or for to huck up if you like that better. Point is, I'm working on it. They're trying to prove to me that their employers are valued by taking extra time. That's not going to work. It's just like the mating market in which you live. That's why I mentioned it. The mating market in which you live shows, because when you speak with a sense of frustration. We all do. And that is largely because not only is it as bad as you can pessimistically fantasize it to be, which is why Austin Holloman rightly says it's that bad, but it is because you've been lied to and gaslit and told that it's not that bad. When you were young, think about it. When you were young, you weren't allowed to sit up and tell another guy in middle school, hey man, look, it's as bad as you can imagine it. That yeah, you can tell how a woman's going to act based on how well she looks. You know her attitude is going to be the flip side of her appearance every time, guaranteed. Actually, she might look bad and still have a bad attitude, but she'll never look good and have a good attitude. That's a very negative and pessimistic thing to say. You were not allowed to say stuff like this when you were young. You were not allowed to think it out loud. And then what happens? Now we know that's exactly what the wuck it is. Which is why Austin Holloman, of all guys, Austin Holloman says it's that bad, and his country behind is now in Thailand. And when I say country behind in this case, I mean it as a compliment, because we're both Southerners. He's got to be there. And, I'd like to do what he's doing and teach. Ideally, I would do both. Absolutely. But, like I said, the Postal Service doesn't work here for monetizing the channel anyway. So I leave it up to you all. And you can only do what you can do. Y'all got bills. You got like I said, you got a dating market that sucks. And you got a job market that sucks over there. Otherwise, I wouldn't be terribly afraid of having to go back. I mean, if I have to go back, then religiously, I'm not going to be afraid because I didn't have a choice. But financially, man, I fear it. I could see myself being homeless in 3 months over there. And even though my parents have a house, no, I could see myself having to sleep under bridges over the winter. I could easily see that happen if rent is sky high. Employers don't offer good salaries. That's why people ain't trying to work. Oh, I'm supposed to work hard to be poor? F you. I could see that happening. Y'all shouldn't work hard over there. And as a matter of fact, to my teachers, my fellow teachers that are there in the States, all of y'all should be on strike by now. Y'all should have been on strike decades ago. Soon as you're held accountable for the way the kids behave in your class, but you're not allowed to hit the little boogers, y'all should have been on strike. No. You take away accountability for how they behave as well. We can't hit them, fine. You send them somewhere where somebody can. You do not put you don't put on us the accountability and then take away the authority. I had that experience. That's why I would never go back and teach. Honestly, I got one resume. We call it a CV over here. Everywhere else, actually, they call it a CV. I got one resume, one CV for teaching. And then if I had to go back stateside, I got another one. And I'll lie my butt off about experience. So you're trained to be a teacher. Yes. Well, what made you leave teaching? Oh, man, I've been stopped teaching a long time ago. My experience since then I've trained other employees, but, teaching, no. Man, I'll lie my butt off. Every teaching job I had here, which is really one, I tell them I was a consultant. Oh, really? So how did you manage to do that without being in the classroom? Oh, no, I was in the classroom. I just posed as a student that couldn't speak. That's how I learned. Oh, that's interesting. Tell us more. Who can verify that? Man, that's an international call. That costs $35 a minute. Man, I'll give you the number if you want, but that's $35 a minute if you won't waste it. But yeah, that's how they do it over there. I have to do this just to compete, and I'll still probably be homeless. And I'm saying this only because you guys have to deal with this in the job market and then in the mating market. That includes dating or marriage. The only way you don't have to deal with this in the marriage market is if you're dealing with trying to marry someone that's already been ran through by others, not just another, but others. But Chantel Simone said it in the last upload. She told the women, these men are wising up. In the upload about the stepdad, she said to them, these men are wising up. If you're post-wall, they're going to say you're only prioritizing marriage and giving them a chance because you've hit the wall. They know what the deal is. She's telling them about this. And I didn't even finish listening. I just started and I got interrupted. I'm telling y'all, man, this story time, I know it's gotten long. I've tried to keep it short a few times and I get caught up and I say, you know what? I'm not even halfway done. This is just going to be a long one, which you can probably tell by now already because you can see the total time that this will take. But look, gentlemen, understand, in terms of being able to proactively fight this thing, there's a place you can go and live to see how it's done. But you got to go and actually mix with them and get to know the culture and everything else. And it shouldn't be too hard. They're related to us. And if you ain't Muslim, they got non-Muslims living in the north of Nigeria. You can get along with them. You treat them well, they treat you well. If they're not your friend, but you're nice to them, they'll still be nice to you. The peace can be there. The trouble's in the countryside based on something else. Just don't go driving around in the countryside right now. You Gucci. Don't take the train either, by the way. I forgot to tell y'all. They did derail that mother cuss word just to kidnap some people. Take flights. Catch flights. Because they don't have artillery that can fire all the way up in the air and down. They don't have that. It's not how that works. Plus, they can't even see them. So go ahead and catch flights. But you can do that. So do such. Go there, see how it is. You could probably spend 9 months. They speak English. You'll learn a lot very quickly. You probably learn some Hausa while you're at it. If I could afford to, I'd be doing that right now. Now, I can't afford it. And I can't do this YouTube thing full time because I don't want y'all giving until it hurts to make so that I can afford to do this and take care of my kids and my wife. I don't want that. I don't want this y'all stretching out like that. That's why when I do start to, and one day I will, when I do start to ask all y'all to send something to me, I'm gonna ask everyone for a small amount, like what I did as a test previously. But for some of you, you can afford to do it. You got no wife, you got no kids, and you ain't about to have none no time soon. As long as you stay over there in the West anyway, you can go there. This is a place to learn how to proactively fight it. And when you do it, you'll be in a position to tell me more than what my friends are telling me, or to supplement. Or let's say more in addition to what my friends from northern Nigeria are telling me about how you proactively fight it. And they don't know about black manosphere, white manosphere. They don't know these names and everything else, these buzzwords we have. What they do know is that one of their friends, one of my friend's friends in Kano, already married, just married a widow of another doctor who died saving the life of his patient. He contracted a fever, helping her to deliver her baby. They had to cut her open. He contracted Lassa fever. He died from that. So his wife, the widow, so he passed away as a martyr in our faith. So his widow now was recently married by a friend of my friend, and his previous wife, she's still his wife, she tripped. He gonna marry a woman I don't even know. What you want him to do? Marry her friend, her girlfriend, her buddy? Shut this fit. And once he announced the plans to marriage, he's not allowed to go back in their culture. And actually starting a push in northern Nigeria for more polygyny practiced by successful men. You know why? Because you might think, well, the wealthy men are the ones marrying all these women. Nope, actually, that's not what's happening. All my friends are married to one woman, all of them, and they're all successful. They're physicians. Last one of them. Much smarter than me, at least when it comes to medicine. But when it comes down to it, where they said that where they live, the taxi drivers are the ones marrying 2 and 3 and 4 and having kids all over the place. Nope, can't take care of all of them. Nope, can't pay school fees. Nope, none of that. Just, I'm going to marry 2, 3, 4. I'm not paying a hell of a lot of dowry, and I'm going to come in all of them. Skeet squirt. Ain't no pull-out game. Absolutely not. When she's done taking a shower afterwards, watch your step if you go in the shower after her. That's how they do it. And they said that's why you see a lot of poor kids running around. Those ones marrying more than one. So now they're pushing for successful men, and they're beginning to embarrass successful men that don't marry a second. Hopefully they'll marry even a third and a fourth. So if I were to go and live there and I'm doing okay as a teacher, especially if I'm doing okay as a YouTuber, they would come to me and say, no, you got to marry another one. Now I'm willing to tell my wife I'm marrying another one. I love her, but I'm willing to tell her that at the risk of her leaving. I've already had this conversation. But the thing is, I may just not want that headache. And that's one reason I'm not looking to go and live there. Visit, sure. Live, no, Because then they would come to me and see the thing. They don't like him older in many cases. That's the other thing. Same buzzword we talking about. My man was telling me that lady who's tripping because her husband married the widow of the martyr doctor. Yeah, that lady that's tripping went back to her family's house. Her daddy's sick. There ain't no room for her in that house anyway. And she's sitting there suffering with no room, no place to sleep. All her kids there because she wants to prove a point. And everyone's calling her a stupid fool for it. And if she leaves her husband, she will find nobody. I didn't tell him this. He was telling me if she leaves her husband, who gonna want her at her age with 5 kids? Even if the kids go and stay with the dad, which they're going to, because custody goes automatically to the father beyond a certain age. And when the kids are older, they live on their own anyway. They go where they want. She's not going to get custody of them by default. So what's she going to do? She's going to wind up being easy pickings and a practice dummy for younger men. And I was like, a practice dummy for younger dudes. They ain't supposed to fornicate either. He said, yeah, we know. A lot of them don't. But the one that decides to, he has a moment of weakness. She's going to be the outlet. Because she doesn't there's no other way she's even going to get sexual satisfaction. She will not find a husband because she didn't leave her last husband, her current husband now, based on anything else. See, he married a woman that was previously married, but she's a widow. Her husband died as a martyr. He'll marry her. He'll be nice to her kids. He might even look after them. That's a different story. His current wife is showing she's irresponsible because she feels entitled to have a successful doctor husband to herself. That's what my friend was telling me. How's that for a story time? You see now why I can't keep this under a half hour? And I'm not even going to edit and add the music to this one. This one is a hell of a lesson for us, guys. There are places that have to fight this thing reactively. Danan is an Argentine guy that's down in Argentina fighting feminism in Spanish. I don't understand everything they were saying. I've lost a lot of Spanish. Plus, their accent is changing in Argentina. They're beginning to sound more like the Caribbeans. And I'm sorry, but if you're Dominican, Puerto Rican, or Cuban, you niggas sound ghetto when y'all talk Spanish. I don't hate y'all. It's nothing like that. But I don't understand y'all. If you can't pronounce your S's, how the F I'm supposed to know that you're not using a completely different word than the one I learned in the textbook? Or that you pluralizing a singular? How am I supposed to know? I don't know what y'all talking about. Aquí está la pistola. What is that? Oh, you mean aquí están las pistolas. Oh, you just can't pronounce the S. Oh, okay, got you now. So consequently, I don't know what they're talking about without a translation there. And I want to give a shout out to Cortez Smith for sending me those links. But you have that. But that's a reactionary fighting. In northern Nigeria, they're proactively fighting. They've been telling me about this. That's how we got into these discussions. And then later I began to tell them what little by little, I've told them about my own experience. I ain't told them about no Black Manosphere, Kevin Samuels, OJ. I ain't got that deep yet. Mostly what I'm telling them is what the results and the effects have been amongst us so that they keep on doing this. Here's one thing that you need to know. In Kano, as an example, that's an urban center. That means Kano is not an epicenter from which feminism springs forward throughout the North. No, Kano is the epicenter of opposition to feminism in the North, even though it's an urban center. In Kano, nightclubs must be underground. There are probably no more than 3 because they got to operate in secret anyway. And I'm only saying 3 to be generous because of how big it is. I'm basing this on what they told me. In Kano, if a woman wants to wild out, do they exist? Yes, they exist. In Kano, if a woman wants to wild out, she needs to move to Abuja and probably then to Lagos to wild out even more. And once they record themselves on video bragging about this because they're under social pressure in Abuja and Lagos to do this, girl, record yourself. You know, it's just a different accent. Record yourself, girl. And I'm saying this with a neck roll and some finger snaps too. Tell him, girl, tell him you a liberated woman. They just sound different when they say it. And then once they do this on camera, they can't go back to Kano. I feel sorry for women in Kano that look like someone that became infamous in Abuja or Lagos for stuff like that. And here's the other thing, and this is important to understand, gentlemen, not for the women to understand, because they ain't going to prove no way. It's important for you to understand, gentlemen, because a lot of you might think, well, you know, I don't hate women. I just don't want to take any crap off of them. How do I know to what extent they go and at what point do they stop over there? You may ask that question. That's a legitimate question to ask. But come on. You think fathers don't love their daughters? My friend loves his daughters. That's why he told him you're going to continue and you're going to start medical school in Nigeria with your grandparents down the street from that college with the car that you have. Not because he doesn't love them, but because he does. But one of the reasons we even had this conversation is because he felt some fear and he was confiding in me. And that's another reason I can't tell y'all who I am. I'm not going to have people's privacy blown up instead of you just learning the lesson. No, don't focus on who he is. Learn a lesson. He confided in me. Then he felt some fear because he wanted to know why his daughters felt like they were losing something by not going to a country in which they don't know anyone and that could wind up being affected by a neighboring war. He was saying to me, I don't understand what the logic is in this case. That's scary. Why would they even want to take that risk if they don't have to? I was scared when he told me, but I said to him, listen, I think it just has to do with the notions of prestige in Europe, even Eastern Europe. I think maybe it's just that. Maybe they think they're going to like the snow or something. They're not, but maybe they think they're going to love the snow. It could be that. People that have never lived in really cold climates tend to think they're going to really love it when they get there. And then they get there and they can't stand it. They're ready to go back to the tropics. It's a common misconception of many tropical people. I try to squash his fears and allay them with that. But he was like, I hope that's all it is. And I understand what his fear is. Is it that deep down they just want to have a whole phase with no kind of repercussions? And these are practicing Muslims. But is this what they're worried about? And the funny thing is, they don't have to have that because they're young, but they're women. If they decide they want to get married while they're young, they have an easy time. He's already trying to find a husband for his eldest daughter. He's already suggested someone, but not forced her because forcing her is not right. They love their women in these areas. Kano, a Chinese man in Kano is sitting in jail now, maybe even prison. He's facing or has already begun a capital trial because of a murder of a woman in Kano. They love their women and they value the lives of the women there. They just ain't gonna take no crap and let them run the show, as this Chinese man in Kano was experiencing. And even then, he didn't just kill her because he felt like he owned her per se. He did it because, well, she chose to not marry him. We in Black America tend to hear all these extremes. Well, all black women are bed wenches, and it got started back home in Africa. Not all. Is it a problem? Oh, hell yeah. Oh, no. She was courting or talking or discussing with a Chinese man who became Muslim, and then she went and married a Nigerian man instead. And when that didn't work out, she didn't go back to the Chinese man, and that's when he snapped. And he's still wrong. We all say that. The Chinese population in Kano sent a letter in the newspaper saying we are not with this man, and he's not even been convicted yet. They washed their hands of this man from jump because they know they're surrounded by, beta male coons, according to Cynthia G. That's who surrounds them. And yet and still, they had to understand, we can't even support this man to get a fair trial. We better let these folks know, because Nigerians don't take crap off people. The problem is many of us look at the Igbos who don't even take correction when they're wrong, and we want to apply this to Africans. And that's our mistake. The worst mistake is when I and other people who have learned these nuances come and tell you, you want to sit up in and shout us down. Man, you a sellout. You telling us to just lay down and take it. Why the F would I tell anybody to do that? If I'm going to tell anybody to just lay down and take it, I'm going to tell people that have done wrong and cause harm. That's something I would tell white folk if they'd listen. I don't expect them to listen to that. But if there's somebody that deserves to be told that, it will be them. Not individually, but collectively. Absolutely. Absolutely, they deserve to hear this. Lay down and take it. You earned it. I would say this to Northern Indians or to the Indo-Aryans when they're dealing with the Dalits. If they oppress you, lay down and take it. You earned it. I say this actually when the Chinese get dealt with in Africa for some of the foolishness that they do carry out. Lay down and take it. You provoked this. But I digress. This story time had a lot of lessons in it, and I couldn't keep it any shorter than what I did now. I hope this helped, because there's a lot to learn. It really is. And when you may think, man, I ain't got time for all that. And if I'm telling you this and you've observed something differently, I understand why you'd have a different opinion. But if I'm telling you this and you think it's just too much and I'm straddling the fence, you're an anti-intellectual. If it's not based on observation yourself, you're an anti-intellectual and you just don't like the nuance. And that's what it is. If you observe differently, we can compare notes because these are observations. If you have not and you just want to sit up and say something, man, you know what? Get off my page. If you feel that way, unsubscribe. I wouldn't want you hitting the share button. Because we have to get rid of this anti-intellectualism if we're going to learn these things like what I have already learned and I'm now trying to share with some of your country behinds. And when I talked about the way that some of y'all write, this is one of the reasons. If English is your first language and you're a terrible writer in it, you slept in English class. You were anti-intellectual in your youth, and you don't have the right to come preaching in written form to us now if you ain't learned how to write correctly in your first language. Unless you grew up somewhere where your first language was only taught at a great expense, unaffordable to most people. And English ain't one of them languages. Not in the United States. Not where most of you are subscribing. That's why I get on y'all about anti-intellectualism so mother cuss word much. You cannot fight the gynocracy, the hyenocracy, their militant feminism, their misandry in any way, proactively like in Kano or reactively like in Argentina, if you are anti-intellectual and you can't be bothered with nuance and new information. And even though I'm not going to use the term shine because I found out what the actual history is. It doesn't start with Rudy Ray Moore and Dolomite. It didn't start like that with the character from the Titanic. Apparently preceded that only as an insult. So I'm not going to use that anymore. I got epithets for you ninjas that don't like nuance and new information and can't be bothered to be literate. And that's even if you are on my side when it comes to the gender stuff. We can be on the same side when it comes to that. But the minute you decide you're going to try to write down to me, talk down to me but in written form, and you don't punctuate or you misuse a homophone, I'm going to rip your behind up. And there's a reason for it. There's a substantial reason. No, you coming up and saying, you know what I meant, is not an excuse, because you're going to misspell that too. You, the letter U, space, with no capital, the letter U, space, N-O, you're probably going to misspell what I-E-Y-E meant, M-I-N-T. Because you couldn't be bothered with education and knowledge when you were young. And I never asked any of us to become nuclear physicists. But the basics, we tend to be against it. And that's why it is that a lot of these things we don't know, and we spend time debating things even now today. And then I come along and I try to end the debate by simply saying, well, look, I was in a position to learn these things. Let me tell you what I've learned so it can help you. It's not everything. There are experts that know more than me, but they're not here. They're not having these conversations with you. I'll tell you what I got. You can start from there. This can help save y'all some time. Man, you a fence straddler. No, that's not it. The issue is when you're anti-intellectual, you become ignorant of your own volition, of your own choice, then you become the extreme. Ignorance leads to this. Because you get used to thinking in absolutes, always and never, and you don't learn about things like northern Nigeria. And before I told you this, I spent months talking with them about this. I'm in the second month now of having these discussions with them on a weekly basis. Almost daily with my closest friend, whose daughters now have to accept his decision that they're going to go to medical college back home in Nigeria, down the street from the college, in their grandparents' house with that car, and where they can walk to it if something happens to the car. We have this conversation multiple times a week. And before I told you this, I studied. I listened. I talked back, but I listened. And then I'm coming to you and telling you this after I've gotten a clear picture. So if anything, I should have told y'all this sooner, but I was trying to be careful because I'm not an anti-intellectual, because I do understand nuance, and I don't want to give you the wrong information. And I may make a mistake, but at least I can make sure that if I give you the wrong information, it was an honest mistake based on something someone said to me, not because I was an anti-intellectual and an extreme person that just had to fly off the handle to prove something. I hope this helped. Sorry for taking so long. Again, this is your pilot, Black Mind. Thank you for listening. Assalamu alaikum and Black Heart, Black Mind, Blackout. And Black heterosexual, non-select male power just because they don't like it. And Black patriarchy, with northern Nigeria as an example, until extinction or judgment day. You may now unbuckle your seats and move about the cabin. Soon after that, prepare for arrival.